There we go. Thought I'd play dress up today. Sorry about that. As you can probably guess, I was shooting a review right before this, so running a little bit behind, trying to get all my thoughts out there while I was all dressed up. The Disney Nerd, good afternoon, Mr. Chandler. How are you? I am good. I posted a video, went to the gym, shot a video. I'm on a live stream, and it's not even 3 o'clock. So, family time tonight. Fun times. Jay Sutter, how you doing? Just answered that one. Vincent, today's my birthday. Well, Vincent, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Vincent. Happy birthday to you. Now you know my singing voice. I'm also amped up on my pre-workout, plus shooting a video, plus running up and down the stairs trying to get ready for this one. So I might be acting extra weird, and I might crash in the middle of this. I might go from like super white, like I'm crazy out of my mind right now, talking fast. I think I might crash in the middle of this one. Gamerman, hey Sean, do you think Falcon and the Winter Soldier will get a second season or just be Captain America 4? At the moment, I would guess just Captain America 4. Because unless the report is wrong, I think there's the potential that the report is slightly misinformed because it's not, I don't believe Marvel Studios, I don't think officially announced it, but Hollywood Reporter reported it, which they're generally reliable. But if you're announcing we're going to do a movie, it would seem unlikely that you'd both do a movie and a season of a show with the same character. So I would guess that we won't be getting a second season. Or at least won't be getting one for quite a while. Or maybe it's even more complicated than that. Maybe it is that we'll get a second season before we get the movie. I don't know. Maybe I don't have a strong enough opinion. Maybe I don't have a clear enough thoughts on that one. I think with their whole model that they're doing, kind of all bets are off. You just don't really know. Because they announced with 13 shows. So are they going to have season 2 while also doing those other shows? How many of those shows are going to get a second season? Like, that's where it gets complicated because there's a lot of things to consider. Like, are they going to have 2 Marvel shows running at the same time? Or are we just going to, they're just going to have a different one running all the time? Like, there's just a lot of that, a lot to factor into even trying to think of what they could be doing. And then they've announced like 10 movies. So is this coming out after all of those? So I don't know. It's just tough to guess because there's so many moving parts right now. To Estupitardo. I'm sure I'll mispronounce that one. Hey, Sean, thoughts on Falcon finale taking place in New York before Far From Home? Shouldn't Spider-Man have been there? That's inherently one of the problems with having a world this populated with heroes, is that you can pause throughout this whole season and make that same argument. You get to episode 3, and they're going to break out Zemo, or Bucky breaks out Zemo because that's his only option. Well, why didn't he call any of his superhero friends first? There's a bunch of other things he could have done. So I think that you inherently run into a lot of these problems of like, yeah, why aren't they calling their friends? Why? We saw War Machine in the first episode. But then, as soon as they start doing things where it's like, oh no, they're super soldiers, we have no other options. Have you called in your friend that's War Machine? Like, you just kind of keep running into these moments where it's like, but that is the inherent problem of having a populated universe, is that you constantly have to, you want to raise the stakes for everything. Like, this is a gigantic threat that causes them to do desperate things. But you can't have the full cast of the MCU in every movie. David Patterson, I finished reading Watchmen. It was great. I have the first 2 episodes of the HBO show, also great. Yeah, it's one of the classics. I still have my copy. I guess we talked about it last. I think that's what happened. I have to talk about it on Wednesday. I haven't even put it up yet. It's still right there on my desk. But yeah, if any of you guys are looking for, if you're haven't read comic books and you want to get into them, trying to give you a little quick rundown. There we go. I can't find my Batman Year One. I might not have it anymore. Marvel Ultimates. It's the Avengers. It's kind of the basis kind of for this version that we got in the movies. So the Ultimates, Watchmen, the most praised graphic novel of all time. Dark Knight Returns, just a classic that all Batman fans have to read. Zachary, watch one anytime you want. Watch once a year. Never what. Okay, so you're asking me a question about several movies. I'm trying to wait, you're giving me like a poem or something? Watch one anytime you want. Watch one once a year. Never watch one again. So I have three movies, and I have to choose which they fall into. So amongst these three movies that you are aware are three of my favorite movies of all time. One I can never watch again, and one I can only watch once a year, and one I can watch whenever I want. Okay, based off, it's tough because I have to factor a lot of things into this one. If I'm not factoring my son into it, who's obsessed with the xenomorphs and really wants to watch the movie Aliens, but he hasn't seen it before, so not factoring him into it, Aliens would be probably the one that I would never watch again. It's which you're putting me in a scenario where I have to choose. That's the context of it. T2 would probably be once a year, and Die Hard would probably be whenever I want, because my wife, I think, likes to rewatch Die Hard a little bit more than T2. But you're making me choose between three of my top 5 movies, so there's no good answer. Jay started thoughts on Chef with Jon Favreau. I think it's underrated. So I have a Jon Favreau ranking. So I talked about all of his movies. So my thoughts on Chef that are kind of like, I watched it immediately before, or watched it in the month beforehand, wrote notes, and then packaged them concisely. I have a video, Jon Favreau movies ranked, from whenever Lion King came out about 2 years ago. It's great. If you guys haven't seen Chef, you should check it out. It's not remotely actually biographical, but it's a little bit of, I think, Jon Favreau processing through his own career, because he started out as an actor, and then he wrote Swingers, and then he got to star in it, but he didn't direct it. And then he made this little movie called Made that I really enjoyed. It's actually a very important film for me, and kind of my discovering movies that weren't blockbusters was his movie first directed, called Made. And then he does Elf, and it's this big hit. And then he does Zathura, and then he does Iron Man. Then he kind of skyrockets into blockbuster success. And then he does Iron Man 2 and Cowboys and Aliens, which weren't received all that well. And I think he was in line to do Avengers and kind of didn't end up getting it. So he kind of went from like Golden Boy to that directed Elf, and then Iron Man. And then people are like, oh, maybe he's not so great. And so he does this little movie called Chef, and that's kind of the journey of the character in it, who's this guy that it's all about a chef that starts kind of like trying to impress critics rather than doing what his heart tells him to do. And I think it was Jon Favreau kind of processing through his own frustrations with his directing career of trying to be a big blockbuster guy and maybe losing himself a little bit in that process. And just a really nice movie. And he kind of brought all his friends in. So it's like Scarlett Johansson is in it, but she's in it for like 10 minutes because he's just people like him, and people tend to like, if they work with him once, they want to work with him again. And just a lot of his friends show up. Robert Downey Jr.'s in it for like 5 minutes. Just a lot of cameos like that. Just a real charming little story about this guy kind of rediscovering himself. But I've been a big fan of Jon Favreau since I saw the movie Made 20 years ago. And I think his smaller stuff is just as good as his flashy big stuff. And I as an actor, he's not necessarily the most versatile, but I really enjoy him as an actor, and he stars in the movie. That was actually much longer than I probably talked about it in the ranking, though, since I was given this long history. Thomas Jones, how you doing? I am doing good. Doing good. I don't know. Actually, I'll say this. I've been feeling off for about 3 months now. Like, I'm still getting stuff done. I just can't pinpoint exactly what it is. Like I was busy. I keep talking about this every week, but February was like this just crazy month in real life. And then March stuff came out, so I was just busy with the channel. But the last 3 weeks, April hasn't been all that busy. In another sense, it's like I've taken time off, but I just feel like I'm not in my groove. Nothing interesting. It's not like, it doesn't need anything more dramatic. Just don't feel quite in my groove. And it's odd because I normally like that. Some of it is also probably that I'm doing this like workout routine thing. So I'm also, I added something that inherently takes out energy from me. And I'm probably not factoring enough how much working out a lot more takes a toll on me. Gal, Sean, in the end, which TV show do you prefer, WandaVision or Falcon and Winter Soldier? WandaVision. WandaVision. No, not real much debate on my end. Both are flawed, but the journey of WandaVision itself, that experience of watching through it, I thought was a lot more engaging and intriguing. And then I think it's a lot more rewatchable. Some of that maybe it's because I have kids and they really enjoy the sitcom stuff in it. And so they watch that stuff all the time. Like we finished Falcon and the Winter Soldier last night. And when me and the kids woke up early. Fridays we wake up. Yesterday we woke up at 5:30 and we watch actually Mighty Ducks first because the kids like that one more, and then we watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Mom doesn't wake up early like that, so she didn't watch it. So when we rewatched it in the afternoon, as soon as we finished it, then they're like, "Let's put WandaVision back on," and so WandaVision. Disney Nerd, did you know if you watch Jaws backwards, it's actually a heartwarming story about a shark who gives body parts to disabled people? That is true. That is true. Holler Johnson, I think it's pretty weird that 3 of the Oscar nominees are in a way about the Black Panther Party, Juice of the Black Messiah trial in the Chicago 7, and One Night in Miami. I think it's interesting the way that worked out. I don't think it's all that surprising in light of modern politics, relevant conversations, whatever language you want to use for that. Hollywood, Oscar people, they like to nominate important films. Right now they heavily value that. Back in the 90s, it was Forrest Gump, Braveheart, kind of these mainstream, very well-made movies. And then now they like movies that have like an important message. And so you have a year that is heavily about social unrest related to race relations in the country. So I don't think it's terribly surprising that they picked 3 well-made movies that touch on that. That there's a logic to that follows how the Oscars tend to behave. My nose is itching. If you guys have been following along, you probably know my nose starts itching if I talk too long or if I'm hopped up on stimulants. So I did my pre-workout, and so that's in my system. And I did as you can guess, I did a review right before this, so my nose is acting crazy on me. David Arbor Jr., hey Sean, watched Nobody with my dad and brother this morning. Do you think it'll be a standalone film or start a series? I don't know. I think it definitely could lead to a sequel. I think it depends on how well it does. Anytime something makes money, then they want to do more. And that movie left things wide open. And they're from different studios, but I was legitimately waiting for a direct John Wick reference. It's from the same writer. They have the same vibe. Different studios. There's a lot of obstacles in the way, but I was kind of thinking there would be one. But I think the tricky part is that it came out now, and I think it's just tough to gauge success right now when the metrics are all different. Everyone that saw the trailer, I want to see that, seems to have dug it, really dug it, but how many people is that? And how do you measure, did it over or underperform when theaters are still not fully open yet? And even like, Godzilla vs. Kong is one of the ones that really got people back in theaters and were like, oh, the whole world won't end if we go back to the theaters. And nobody came out before that. Came out or right around it. It was nobody, I think, came out with a week before it. So that I don't feel like it had audiences where it's comfortable going back just quite yet. Jay Sutter, have you ever recorded a video only to realize that it wasn't recording the whole time and you had to start over? Yes. Yeah, I haven't had a ton of those, but I've had multiple things where I've had audio issues. I don't think I didn't hit record because I can see on, like, I have the screen. It's a problem that I look at the screen, not the lens a little bit. I shouldn't have told you that because then you'll be looking for it, and then once you see it, you'll never unsee it. But there's a big red dot in front of me. So if there's not a big red dot, I'd be a moron. But what does happen is that the audio doesn't record, and that's where it can be a big problem. And I actually had to change the way I record because the little jack on this one, after 4 years, right there, it's not 100%. And so I was like, I got it plugged in. I did everything I'm supposed to do, and then it just wiggled the wrong way. Shot a whole video, went to go edit it, no audio. So I had to change it so I record the audio directly into my computer, and then the camera has its own mic built into it, and it picks up audio too. So if there's a mistake. So if you watched the video, I think it was my review yesterday of the whole season of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I believe this mic didn't work. I hit record on the computer and then I hit it again, and so it stopped recording. So I recorded 1 second of audio, which was not helpful. And it just sounds, this is a much better mic than a camera has, and this is also 6 inches from my mouth. That's 2 or 3 feet from my face, and so it just picks up so much more of the room when I don't use this one. Zachary, thoughts on Emilia Clarke and Olivia Colman being in the cast of Secret Invasion? It's always good when you cast talent. They're getting talent. That's what I see. That no real surprise here. This is what they've done all along. They've gone for talent. They've always, the MCU, one of the things it's always done is cast people really well. There's only a few exceptions, but when you've got as many movies as they've done, you're always going to have something that's not quite right. But yeah, I don't have like any specific thoughts like I'm so excited that they specifically, no, but they're talented. Thomas Jones, if you had to choose, I know it's tough, but if you only could watch one director's filmography for the rest of your life, which director would you choose? I don't know. I mean, I'd probably go with Spielberg because he's my favorite director, and he has a diverse filmography, and he's been directing for almost 50 years, in which case you have a lot of movies. So there's like James Cameron, his batting average is better than Steven Spielberg's, but he's directed one movie in over 20 years now. He's only directed one movie in the last 20 years. So there's just not enough movies if I only get to watch one movie. Rich Reviews, thoughts on Lionsgate wanting to develop TV series based off American Psycho and Saw. So I haven't read the actual report on all of that. Actually, real quick. Some of you guys are asking too many questions, and I don't mean that in the rude sense. You're just asking questions too quickly. You can't do that. I'm 20 minutes behind on questions, and so I'm gonna have to start skipping over some of your questions because I want to answer everybody's questions. I want to get to everybody, but if you ask 5 questions in 5 minutes, then I will just get backlogged. So you have to space them out. And if I skip a question, just loop back around. You can ask it again and again, but you got to pause. You can't ask 5 questions in 5 minutes. So Lionsgate wanting to develop teasers based on American Psycho and Saw. I haven't read the report, so I don't know any specifics on that. American Psycho. I'd have to know the pitch. I think Saw, I get it. Saw makes sense actually kind of to me. The movies themselves play like a TV show. I'm watching through them right now in lead up to the new one. And I mean, there's like an intricate mythology. They directly follow the other one. Some of them take place at the same time, twist turns. Like they're very much, you could see how that would make for a TV show with even the way that the movies are designed. American Psycho, I'd have to know what the pitch is to kind of run with that one. Matt McCarthy, when Rugrats reboots drops, you should watch the 3 Rugrats movies with your kids and rank them. If I did, it would probably be on my probably be with my kids if I did that. I probably wouldn't do it entirely on my own. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Um, Ryan Peterson, hey Sean, hope you're having a great weekend so far. That's pretty good, pretty good. Went to the movies yesterday with my friends. My mom came over last night, and being productive today. Gamer Man, did you hear Avi Rod, the guy behind the masterpiece that is Spider-Man 3, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, had a say in the MCU Spider-Man deal? Did not allow the MCU to use Uncle Ben along with many Spider-Man elements. I haven't seen that report. I haven't seen the specific thing that you're talking about. Yeah, Avi Arad has a long history. He's done a lot of things, and people have many opinions on him. But I guess that would explain a lot. I mean, it would make a lot of sense. That, especially if you watch kind of my criticisms of MCU Spider-Man, big Tom Holland fan. It's not him, but they're just doing so much weird Spider-Man and not enough any normal Spider-Man. That would make some sense if it was part of the deal that they had to avoid some of that. David Patterson, I haven't watched through the whole series in one sitting yet, but I don't think I would say Falcon the Winter Soldier was a great show. For the most of the show, it was looking like it would be, but the last 2 episodes kind of broke it. Episode 3 is what broke it for me. That's where I went, wait, we're halfway through the season and I'm not feeling it. Like, what are we doing? And I think ultimately the Flag Smashers weren't a compelling villain. They were so concerned with making them sympathetic and making us understand why they were doing bad things that they forgot to have them do bad things, do enough bad things. And I think that just, for me, kind of took all the oomph out of the show. And then so you get to the last 2 episodes and you're like waiting for the big payoff, and they just didn't build enough to have a big payoff. For me, and for particularly for me, I compare this to other shows that kind of have a spy kind of vibe to it, in certain ways similar, totally different shows, but like Alias and 24 in certain ways could be comparable to this show with the nature of the threat, things like that, but globetrotting. But this show just never found a way to have like this urgent tension to it that you just feel the danger, save maybe the end of episode 4 where you're like, oh, what's going to happen after that? But it didn't have enough of those moments where you just felt that I got to get back. I got to watch the next thing. Rich Reviews, are you planning to watch the Sesame Street documentary called Street Gang? I haven't heard anything about it, so I don't know. Sesame Street, I can't say is like a huge part of my life. It's not one that my kids watched, and I watched it 30 years ago, 35 years ago. So it's not something that's immediately interesting to me, and documentaries aren't necessarily the thing that I gravitate towards the most. So it depends on what I heard about it. If I heard great things about it, then it might be more interesting to me. Jay Studdard, favorite comic book storyline? Batman Year One. I like origin stories. I like Batman. So then seeing Batman's origin, his first year, that's my sort of thing. Zachary just finished Mortal Kombat. Meh. When is your review dropping? That's what everybody wants to know. I don't just dress like this. This is not my Saturday best. There's a reason I'm dressed like this, because I might have shot something recently. I'm assuming it'll drop tomorrow morning at probably 11 a.m. Central. That's what I would assume. I don't think I want to drop 2 videos today. So then it drops tomorrow. I would assume. But we'll know. Don't know. We'll see. Ryan Peterson, my first thoughts on Falcon and the Winter Soldier. The first few episodes were kind of a letdown. The last 3 episodes won me over, and I cannot wait for season 2 and the Captain America 4 movie. I would guess that we're getting one of those, not both of those. And since they announced Captain 4 movie, I would guess that's the one we're getting. So I wouldn't hold your breath waiting for season 2, because even if we do get a season 2 in a year, if you held your breath for a year, it would mean you're dead. Don't do that. But what's interesting to me is that everyone's opinions are all over the place. For me, I was all in on the first two episodes, and then I started getting frustrated with episode 3. I thought episode 4 was the best episode, but it didn't really win me over on the season as a whole. But then you look at Ryan, he didn't like the first 3. The last 3 won him over. You look at David up here, he really dug the first 4, and then the last 2 lost him. Like, everyone is all over the place on this show. The Disney Theater, it's funny to me how the Oscars are tomorrow, and the only movie I've seen that were nominated or something for something are Onward and Soul. Yeah, I mean, I think there's two elements to that. Number one, it was 2020. Weird year. Without the normal film festivals that kind of let you know kind of what in advance, what's going to be the best picture stuff. I hadn't seen most of these movies until the last month. I didn't even heard of some of these movies until the last month. Some of these movies didn't even come out till the last month, literally, because they delayed when the nomination date. So some of these movies came out a month ago, not even in 2020. And so just inherently that's kind of makes it tricky. And I think the other one is, I think some of that's just the case with Oscar movies these days. It's not like it used to be where everybody saw Braveheart. Like, I was in middle school and I saw Braveheart back in 1995. Everybody saw Forrest Gump. It was like one of the biggest hit films of 1994 or 93, whichever one it was. 94. That's just not like that anymore. There's a lot more obscurity to the Oscars. David Pettis, Citizen Kane was amazing on the big screen. Oh, very cool. Very cool that you got to see that one. Yeah. Just started. Do you think the Snyderverse will ever be restored? The moment, I don't know, man. I don't know. All bets were off as soon as we got the Snyder cut. As soon as they announced it, all bets were kind of off. But then they've been weird about it. So I just don't even know what they're thinking, what they're doing, what's going on over there. So I would say it's under 50%, maybe under 30% chance that it happens. But when you have Snyder so overtly tease what he wants to do, but then we're not going to get it, it's a little frustrating. Daniel Skinner, since there's only 1 week left until the month of May, have you had the opportunity to watch Concrete Cowboy on Netflix right now for an April 2021 movie ranking? If not, I highly recommend you do. No, I haven't. I've been swamped watching Oscar movies and video game movies. That's all I've been watching. I've just been totally backlogged. And some months I try and just, when I have a little bit more wiggle room, I'll just watch kind of random streaming things here and there to try and have more for my end of the month ranking. I just haven't been able to do that this month, and I don't think I will. The binging Oscar movies it's a heavy set of films to binge, so I just don't know if it's on my mind. I don't know that that'll happen. I haven't had enough people ask me about it as a big part of it. So sometimes I just kind of weigh, like Invincible. Every day, 10 people ask me, hey man, have you watched Invincible? Every day I get DMs, have you watched Invincible? Have you watched Invincible? And I haven't watched any of it because I haven't had time. So if I have to choose, am I going to try and watch Invincible, which seems like it would be in my niche, definitely could get a review out of it that I'm sure would do good. If I really dig it and there's enough demand, maybe I could rank the episodes or something like that, get multiple things out of it. And a lot of people are asking about it. Concrete Cowboy, I think you're the only person that's asked me about it. I think, we've talked about it a couple times, but I don't think anyone else has asked me about it. So that's the calculations I'm doing in my head all the time of like, what am I going to do? Because I only have so much time, and to do what I do, I have to watch stuff. And so I'm going, okay, what am I interested in? How do I balance out what I'm watching? It's a lot of that stuff. David Patterson, since they both started on the same day, do you think Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon and The Flash will release around the same time in 2020? Also, which one are you more excited for? I wouldn't guess that they release all that close. I would guess they'll be in the same year, but I mean, the nature of the productions are so wildly different that I would. Um, the, there's enough lead up time to the release dates that it's all based around when they think will accomplish their goals best. Flash wants to make a gigantic stack of money. Scorsese is thinking we might get Oscars. And they want to have as many streamers as they can. I believe it's on, what is that one? Apple TV Plus, I think. Maybe it's on Netflix, I don't remember. But it's on a streaming service. Which am I most excited for? The Flash. I'm just not obviously I'm a child at heart. I got toys up here. Some of those I had before I started this channel. I've never been a Scorsese fanatic, but some of my fondest childhood memories are of watching the old Flash TV show. The only celebrity at a Comic-Con I've ever gotten my picture taken with was John Wesley Shipp, who was the Flash in the 1990s show. So that we're getting a Flash movie that looks like it has Michael Keaton in it from the Batman of my youth, one of my earliest, most fondest childhood memories. So that one just inherently is a little bit more me. Certainly on my mind, though, the question everybody, when are you going to rank the Scorsese movies? It is certainly something I'm going to try to do. Intentionally try and make it happen for when the new movie comes out. And I'll probably have to do like a 6-month wind up to it. He's not one that I could binge his filmography in a month for the obvious reasons. There's 50 years of movies and they're heavy and they're long. So I'd need a like months to make that one happen. So we'll see. Cameraman, a lot of these people these days aren't as big of fans of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man as they were back in the day. I still like them, but I must say there's a lot of screaming scenes. Yeah, well, I mean, I think you have to put it, some of that's a matter of, that's the inherent nature of time passing and the target audience for Spider-Man. Spider-Man, a beloved character that's connected with generations, and a character that you start to like when you're younger, because he's a teenage superhero, so he's easier to connect with at a younger age. So, my kids love Spider-Man, of course, and they don't get the X-Men yet. They're like slowly getting into the X-Men, but they, they'll watch all the Spider-Man movies and enjoy the Spider-Man movies. And so then you have a lot of teenagers current teenagers, back up. If you're 30, you were 10, 12, 13, 11 when the first Raimi Spider-Man movie came out. That means that was like a definitive movie for your childhood that everybody went and saw. It was a huge, gigantic deal. Wow. And it was like the first mega blockbuster of the current era of comic book movies. Batman 89, but that was a different era. It came before. But like of the modern era of comic book movies, this where it's reigned on top for 20 years, really started the one that was a mega. X-Men was a hit. Spider-Man was that next level of just making bukus of money. Everyone saw it. Everyone loved it. Everyone loved Raimi too. If you're currently a teenager, you were 0 when that movie came out, or you weren't born yet when that movie came out. And so there's, most, just by the nature of it, most your average high schooler, they know new things more than they know old things. That's not a criticism. That's just inherent. Like, of course, if you're on this stream, if you're a subscriber to my channel, you probably like movies more than the average person. That's why you're watching my channel, because you resonate with me, because I'm like that. I like movies more than most people. I watch movies more than most people. But your average Joe, average person, average teenager, they just watch them and they don't necessarily know the cultural context. They don't know the history, the importance of those films. And so they just see movies that are dated. Some of the special effects don't hold up. The MCU was built on the back of the Raimi trilogy. Raimi cut the path. He cracked the code on some of this stuff. And then Feige got to build on top of all the work that he did. And all the comic book movies since then have been able to build off the work that Feige's done. But you have to kind of factor all that into it. So I think that's kind of where some of that comes from. Of just They are the first one is almost 20 years old. It turns 20 next year. 20 years is a long time for in terms of blockbusters and technology and stuff. Adam, can you say what your favorite overall season of Game of Thrones as has been so far? Yeah, because we're on Patreon. I'll let you know my ranking. I like to keep it a little bit of secret on the main channel because I want people to watch my rankings and everything. I think right now we got in last place season 3, then season 5, then season 1, season 2, season 4. I think season 6 is my favorite. I haven't even posted my review yet, but I thought like season 6. I was every episode I was like, wow, like they delivered something that was like big payoff, big interesting concept, big battle. There was the payoff of everything that they'd been building towards up until that point in time. So, a 6 is I think my favorite. It's just interesting, kind of like being separate from the conversation that everyone else is having, and not watching it, binging it for the first time. You interpret it differently. So I hear people saying like, "Oh, after season 4, the writing just falls off and it gets horrible," and I don't know, maybe so, but it's not what I've noticed. Zachary, have a good day. I have to head off to work. Bye bye. Jay Studdard, how are you and your family doing? We're good. Just the crazy of life. Kids getting older. It's you start to experience all the kids in different phases with different amounts of attitude. Someone's always got something going on. So yeah, but we're good for the most part. Matt McCarthy, besides Rocky and Braveheart, what are some of the other Best Picture winners you love? Also, as great as Taxi Driver is, always been Team Rocky. Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm Team Rocky. Let me look. Best Picture winners. It's tricky because like they're all. Are you wanting me to pick like my favorite? Favorites of these? It's always tricky. So movies that tend to have meant a lot to me, because like I can go through this and be like, yeah, The Departed was a solid movie. $1 Million Baby, solid movie. Um, they're all solid, well-made movies. Well, almost all of them. Gladiator, of course, was a big deal when that one came out. Like everyone was talking about it. I'm a huge James Cameron fan, so Titanic's a big deal. Forrest Gump was one of the first of those first prestige films that I ever like got into. Schindler's List being a Spielberg, just a classic film. Silence of the Lambs, great character, but also like entertaining, fascinating story. I don't want to overstate this one, but like I'm a big like Clint Eastwood was real big for me back in the '90s. So Unforgiven was a big deal, and it was kind of ones that kind of set me on that Clint Eastwood path. I haven't watched it in a long time, so I don't want to overstate that one though. Do you remember when I watched Gandhi for the first time? That one kind of was like a movie that was just so different from everything else I watched, but like was very emotional for me as it got to the very end. So there's a few. I'm just kind of looking at a list real quick. Do you think the Oscars are necessary? Seems like they only have these ceremonies to judge the quality of films in terms of storytelling. Actually wouldn't agree with that. I don't think they're judging them primarily on their storytelling. I think a lot of what they're doing right now is they're judging it on the importance of the message, and if it's done with prestige aesthetics. That's a lot of what they're doing right now. Is it's the importance of the message. Is it a timely, important discussion being had? Does it showcase under showcased groups? That's a lot of what they're doing right now. And that's not to say that they're not good movies. They are, but that's a disproportionate factor in a lot of what they've been doing the last 5 years or so. Do I think the Oscars are necessary? Necessary? No. Is there value in awards ceremonies? Sure, but I think you have to like keep in mind what they're doing. Like I'm not I don't think like I'm not wired for prestige films. I never really grew up. You know, if you go through my career paths, I worked for teenagers for about 15 years. And a lot of the reason that I was good at that is because I just inherently like more youthful things. I connect with people younger than myself better than people my own age. Sometimes I make friends a little bit quicker with people younger than me, in a lot of ways. Um, and I just never kind of matured in some areas. Like, I'm an immature person. And so kind of prestige films and stuff like that, they don't mean too much to me because I that's not what I most value about films. Isn't what they most value about films. And so when people are like, what are your predictions for the Oscars? I don't have any. I don't have any. I don't really care. I'll watch. I'm curious, but I'm not curious because I have any skin in the game or an opinion really on who wins or anything like that. Because it's just not my strong point and it's not my primary value set. And you know, even as like, you know, Nomadland, is of my all the movies I've seen this year. Nomadland, a bunch of people. It's one of the most celebrated movies, way up here, winning tons of awards. In my ranking, it's like down here. It is. It's yeah. It's just not for me. David Harbour Jr. I watched your Nobody review earlier today, and you had the exact same take I did and the exact same score. Woo! The highlight was the first time Christopher Lloyd joined in. Yes. Yes, it was. That was a lot of fun. My wife really wanted to go see it with me. And we had tickets. She was going to go with me to go see it. And then our son got sick that day, so we had to change our plans up. And so I'm actually pretty excited to watch it with her. But I don't want to pay $20 to rent it. That's frustrating about the way they do all this stuff. Like I wish I could pre-buy it or something like that. Like I don't. It's a year into pandemic world, and they still haven't figured out how to have a reasonable model on this. Like paying $20 to rent a movie that I'm going to buy on Blu-ray. Why don't you just sell me the Blu-ray now and give me digital access? Charge me $5 more to get the digital now, and I would do it. Instead, I'm going to wait, and you'll get less money from me. And by you, it's probably not you, since you probably don't own Universal. Gamerman, I like the scene from Spider-Man where they're like, you mess with Spidey, you mess with New York. You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. Yes, me too. I like that they treat New York or New Yorkers as a character. In a lot of the Spider-Man movies, they do something like that. And they did a cheesier version of it in The Amazing Spider-Man with the cranes. It's corny, but it totally works for me. So I like that they have that vibe to it. That I think, and I can't really pretend as if can speak for what New York is like. I've spent one day in New York City, but my understanding is that's kind of a little bit of the vibe of New York City. Is that it's a city that has a personal identity. Like I live in the Austin area, and Austin has a vibe to it, but it doesn't necessarily have that like that specific vibe of you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us, because Austin's a little bit more divided because it's in Texas, but it's Austin. Austin is very liberal. Texas is very conservative. And so you have people with very different perspectives on things in this area. But Texans as a group have a very strong group identity. Texans are very loyal to other, have a lot of Texas pride. And so I get what they're kind of even doing with some of that stuff with New York. Christopher, overall, I liked Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but I totally see your point on there not being a total threat that propped the show forward. Do you think Falcon ended better than WandaVision? I think it ended better, but the journey was less satisfying. The journey, the comparison is tricky because what made WandaVision compelling is that it did such a great job week to week of building this intrigue raising questions, putting evidence out there that you're like, what could all this mean? What is all going? But the biggest flaw of the show is you get to the end and it doesn't pay off all that well. You get to the last two episodes and you're like, oh, it's not actually going to be as big as we thought. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the whole thing was just kind of lacking that central oomph to it. The whole thing was. So the last episode didn't feel like it ended as much on like a, okay. But that's because it didn't build to something big. So that's that where I think it's a little bit tricky. But I would say that Falcon and the ended better than WandaVision, but WandaVision was better. But the end, specifically, that's the end of Falcon was better because it didn't lead to disappointment. As a whole, I liked WandaVision more. John Sutherland, have you attempted to watch Shameless? I'm trying, but it's not an easy one to get through so far. I haven't watched any of it. I haven't watched one episode. I have no opinions on it. Daniel Skinner, have you seen the original Disney Haunted Mansion starring Eddie Murphy? No. Great family Halloween film on the same level as Hocus Pocus. I also haven't seen Hocus Pocus. So, no, I haven't seen either one of those. Jay Sterrett, thoughts on Chris Rock for the lead of Spiral? I'm a little skeptical and seems like a miscast to me. I mean, we have to see it. You know, if he's doing his routine and like commenting like, why is doing that stuff, horribly miscast. But the key thing is, this was a passion project for him. This movie's happening because of him. He's the one that was like, hey, Lionsgate, I've got an idea for a Saw movie. Seems weird. Doesn't seem like something he would do, but maybe that's exactly why it'll work. It's kind of been said that comedians tend to have a dark side. There's a stereotype that comedians have a real dark side to them. That's why a lot of them end up turning into great actors, but Chris Rock hasn't had that happen yet. Because you think through, Robin Williams, stand-up comedian known for just insane amounts of energy, obviously had a dark side to him and turned out to be a fantastic actor. Jim Carrey can really act when he calms down, but he's a guy that certainly has his demons. And maybe that's Chris Rock, and he just hasn't had the movie where he's had the opportunity to do something serious. So maybe, oddly enough, that's exactly why this is perfect. We have to see it first. So I'm only optimistic about it. I definitely know what you're saying, though. At face value, Chris Rock is a very weird pick to lead a Saw movie. Daniel Skinner, if I'm being honest, the only thing I'm concerned about Spiral is 21 Savage doing the soundtrack for the film. I don't think a great rapper will fit the vibe of a Saw film, in my honest opinion. I'd I don't know enough about it. I don't know anything about 21 Savage. I don't know anything about him doing the soundtrack. I mean, actually, let me look this up because you got my brain working. Here's where my brain is working on this one. Trent Reznor has gone on to become a very prolific film scorer and has done a bunch of work with David Fincher throughout the years. And you would think that he'd be very limited in what he would do. Or, you wouldn't default to thinking he'd be good at doing film scores that would have variety to them. Because he was Nine Inch Nails. Trent Reznor, at least for me, is famous as the guy from Nine Inch Nails, this industrial rock band from the 90s. Obviously, they've gone on beyond the 90s, but heyday was the 90s because that's when that genre was most popular. And so I would have assumed very narrow what he could do. But that's not true. He's an incredibly talented musician and probably just gets along really well with someone like David Fincher, especially like you watch the aesthetic of Seven, and that's where you first start to see some of these collaborations between them. The aesthetic of Seven and the vibe of Nine Inch Nails music videos, you start to go, okay, this makes sense. You can see why these guys are in sync with one another. And, you take a talented musician, he's not limited to rock music that with lots of programming. And I think that logic would similarly apply to this person. So I don't even know what like I'm looking it up and it says music is by Charlie Clouser, who has worked with Trent Reznor. Not there. There you go. I guess he was in Nine Inch Nails, so I didn't even realize just how much everything I was talking about was going to loop back into itself. But was he an official band member? I'm trying to look this up. You guys, like, I'm in the middle. It's like fascinated looking up members of Nine Inch Nails. So he's worked with Trent Reznor before. He scored Saw movies before. So I guess he did some song. The gentleman you're referring to has done some songs for it. So I just don't know enough about it. Anyway, so I'm going down a whole big gigantic rabbit hole. He's got my brain working, got me thinking about something. I was like curious, and so it's just musing out loud. Daniel Skinner, I think the reason I was disappointed by WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier is that they were shows I was not excited about. Therefore, I found both shows to be urgent enough for my enjoyment. Oh, not disappointed. Yeah, I mean, I think that would if you go in with no expectations, then it makes it easier to not be disappointed. Rich Reviews, what are your expectations for Dexter season 9? I don't know. I've been thinking about that because I guess they put out, I don't know if they put out like this little like shot of a log with an axe in it yesterday and just said Dexter. So I've been thinking about it. I just don't know because it ended on such a bad note, weird note that didn't lend itself to wanting to see what's next. I don't think it could end worse, but I don't know what it's going to do that'll make it better. So I don't have any specific expectations. So John Sutherland, in the battle of the season 4s, which you're more excited for, Stranger Things or Cobra Kai? I'd probably go Cobra Kai. Maybe it's just because I haven't watched through Stranger Things in, since the season 3 aired. So it's been about 2 years since I watched through it. And I watched through all of Cobra Kai in December. Could be that right now I'm wearing a Cobra Kai inside out Cobra Kai gi. I'm dressed up in Cobra Kai gear at this exact moment. But I think that one is more consistently entertained me. And some of it's also Stranger Things. We've had 3 seasons stretched out 5 years, and we don't even have 4 yet. And then Cobra Kai is just, we've had 3 seasons in 3 years. It just feels a little bit tighter, builds more momentum. I don't know. In general, I'm feeling Cobra Kai a little bit more. As soon as we get a Stranger Thing, actually, here's what'll probably change this around for me. Is that my son is obsessed with Stranger Things. And he's not obsessed by his standards because he gets obsessed with stuff. But he hasn't even watched it yet. He's just like, what's the Demogorgon? Can you tell me about the Demogorgon? Can you show me more about the Demogorgon? He doesn't even know anything what the Demogorgon is. He hasn't watched one episode of Stranger Things, but he's just heard little things and he likes monsters and creatures and stuff. So and these YouTube channels he follows on Minecraft channels have done like Minecraft Stranger Things. And so he knows enough to be really interested. And so when I'm able to watch Stranger Things with him, that'll be really cool. Cameraman, I don't know if you remember all of Smallville, but you probably know that Clark dies a lot on this show. And of course comes back a lot of many times. And I get annoyed by, and you know your thoughts. Yeah. I don't, like you said, I haven't watched through the whole thing in 10 years. As the seasons were airing, I normally watched all the episodes like 3 times while it was happening. And, this is before Netflix and streaming and all that stuff where you have tons and tons and tons of shows. And I owned the DVD sets of Smallville. So I watched it a ton back in the day. But now that we have so many options and with the channel and everything, I just haven't rewatched all of it. I just kind of watch my favorite episodes when I'm in the mood. So it's kind of scattershot what I watch. But yeah, I mean that was kind of one of the problems with the show is that it ran 10 seasons. And when you're trying to tell over 200 Clark Kent stories without being able to put him in a cape and allow him to fly, you start repeating yourself. There's only so many things you can do, and you see that in the show. Jay Studdard, thoughts on The Town with Ben Affleck? I haven't seen it. Or at least I haven't seen it in a frame of mind where I could remember it. I think I've put it on before, but I haven't seen it well enough to be able to comment on it. I own it. I need to. I need to do a Ben Affleck ranking. It's weird. He's like one of these guys that he's famous, like, one of the most famous actors of the last 25 years, but he's a lot more celebrated as a director. And he's, won an Oscar as a screenwriter. He's an interesting guy because he's had so many highs, so many lows, so many blockbuster star power, and it's all about, he's the guy making it happen. And then embarrassing, like, what is he doing in that movie? It's just, he's all over the place as a guy. It's fascinating to me. David Patterson, I have been watching Invincible. I think you will really enjoy it. I bet I will. I would say it's over 50% chance that I'm going to binge through the whole thing this week. I don't want to guarantee that. I think it's going to happen, though. Probably happen. We'll see. David, and if I watch it, I'll review it. It's a busy week for a lot of reasons for me, but we'll see. David Harper Jr., to throw in my take on Falcon and Winter Soldier, I would say it's a 7.5 out of 10 for me. Overall, it disappointed me, but it was solid moments all the same. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what a specific score I would give it. I think I'd have to go a positive. I enjoyed it. But it was also a show that I don't think my excitement level going into it was way up here, and then kind of dropped episode 3 and then kind of leveled out once I realized I'm not going to get this big threat payoff that I'm hoping for and wanting. And then, so it's weird because it, like, with a show, with a lot of the MCU stuff, because so much of it gets so much praise, as soon as you have stuff that you have significant criticisms from a lot of people, it feels like, oh, we didn't like it. Well, no, it just came below our expectations. I had a guy actually had to block him on Instagram because he was just like, he's getting harassing me. He was being belligerent and he was like, "You're small minded." I was like, "What on earth is going on here? Like, what just happened?" He asked me, like, "Do you want to watch? Are you going to watch Batwoman season 2? It's really good." I was like, "Nah, I'm not interested." And he just started like berating me. And he's like, "I know for a fact that you don't like Falcon and the Winter Soldier and you're watching it because it's popular." I was like, what is going on? And so I tried to win the guy over and it didn't work. I tried to like be nice, kill him with kindness. And he wouldn't back down. He's like, I'm sorry. I got a little worked up, but I got worked up because you're a small-minded idiot. It's like, I guess this guy's trolling. I don't have time for it. Anyway, long story short, I enjoyed it, but I was disappointed by it. It has great moments, but I was frustrated. Daniel Skinner, when do you think Venom 2 will drop its first teaser? All right, let me look this up. Venom, let there be carnage. Current release date, September. September is the 9th month of the year. I'll go with May. I'll go with next month. Next month would be 4 months out. If we don't get a trailer in May, it's tough on some of these because the promotion game is so different now because studios are afraid they're not going to be able to keep their release dates, and they don't want to promote a release date that they're not going to stick to. And so they moved it from, was it June to September? I would guess May, but I wouldn't hardline that too much. I think a lot of studios are doing much like, let's do all our promotion in 2 months. Let's do all of it in 3 months when we're confident, like we're doing this date no matter what. The numbers are close enough, and we're getting there where studios have enough of these movies that they can base things off of. They can go, look, Godzilla vs. Kong is making money, even though in theaters, even though it released on HBO Max at the same time. And I think they're seeing some of these things that are making money and they're opening up. Matt G, hello. Hope you're having a good day. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I feel pretty wacky. I don't know if it's because I was hopped up on too many stimulants for my workout, or if I got some new. I'm always trying out the new different products from uh, uh, multivitamins and stuff like that. There are companies called Animal, and so they have all these different Animal Pack, T Pack, Cuts Pack, and so I switched to a new one, and I've been feeling wacky because of it. I don't know if it's like a good sign, like man, it's really working. I'm feeling pumped, or if it's like, oh no, it's messing me up. But I felt my temperature be unusually high for the last since I took them, and maybe it literally is just I actually have the flu or something, or the beer bug. I'm actually sick and I'm talking, but I'm so amped up on all these pills that it's pushing me through my dire sickness, or I took pills that are making me feel weird. I'm like, I started this and I said I was in a weird mood, and I haven't crashed, but I'm definitely still acting weird. Where's your views? I've only agreed with 4 Best Picture winners since Return of the King won. No Country for Old Men, The Hurt Locker, 12 Years a Slave, and Spotlight. I don't even follow along with. Most of these years, I haven't seen enough of the films to have a strong enough opinion. Even if I have seen them, I don't have an opinion. Like this year, I put out a ranking 2 days ago. Here's my ranking of them. That's not a prediction. That's not a preference for who should win. It's none of that. Because I'm just not invested enough to really even have an opinion. Gamerman, how do you feel about the Power Broker reveal? I've seen some people either one disappointed with the reveal, not happy with them making them a villain because of their family add connections to Captain America. I talk about this in both my ranking and my review. So if you want my detailed thoughts on it, they're in my review. They're in my ranking. I don't think it makes any sense at all. My wife was pissed about it. But I don't think they earned it. They explained what was going on any of the levels of like her history with the law. I'm not sure I understand why she's still on the run in light of so many things in everyone else's scenarios. I don't get it in light of her character. It's just too big of a jump from who she was to who she like. I just doesn't add up. And it wasn't very good reveal. I want to play coy just in case someone hasn't watched the show, but you can watch my review of episode 3. I said it in that immediately said it in my review, like, pretty sure this is where this is headed. And they didn't do any red herrings, like, at all. So. Jay started, do you actually drive your family crazy talking about movies too much, or is it just a slogan you use? Well, I'm around more people than just my family, but, if I was driving my wife crazy, we probably wouldn't be the right person to marry. So we're compatible enough that my antics don't drive her crazy. Well, like where that slogan kind of comes from, and when I worked in church world, I had interns, and I would like there was like days where I would like sit down with my interns and I'd start being like, oh, you don't know who John Williams is. Actually, John Williams. And I started writing on the board like who John Williams was. And it was like, that's a little bit of a weird thing to do with your interns for church. And it's that stuff. That's that's where it comes from. That's where that language comes from, of those moments that don't make a ton of sense. Like that's not what normal people do with their interns. And some of it's likewise. I've always been someone that's been drawn to the internet to connect with people that had shared my interests. I was always on message boards, comment sections, starting web pages, wanting to put my ideas out there and thinking I'd have a lot of fun putting my ideas out there. Like I remember actively thinking, watching AMC Movie Talk, Collider Movie Talk, and being like, oh, it'd be fun to have your own comment section that people actually like shared, interacted back and forth with you. That'd be fun. if people care with my thoughts about stuff, like what we're doing right now, every week, almost every week we're on here doing this, and every week there's more people that have questions for me, and I thought that would be cool, and this is what I do now. That's awesome. So that's where it comes from, and it's neat. It's really neat to, when you can turn what you did for free into a living. You're never really working, are you? Getting into cliches, but it's kind of true. It not that some of this stuff does take a toll on me. Some of it is work for me. Some of it, like, it's not the most fun. As it turns out, like when it comes to YouTube, people always want sponsorships. Now that I'm actually getting some sponsorships right now, the sponsorships are when it turns into work, because you have to like work with someone and you have to like go back and forth with emails, and it's like administrative stuff. And when I just do my own thing, it's fun. Anyway, that's a rabbit trail. Gamerman, do you think Indiana Jones 5 should bring back John Rhys Davies and Karen Allen back as Sarah and Marion Ravenwood? Sala said Sarah. I don't know why I read Sarah, but Sala. It's like, who's Sarah? Sala. And Marion Ravenwood Jones. I really hope Karen Allen is in it, because otherwise, if their marriage didn't work, or if she just died off, it just seems like a whenever they first announced that we're getting Logan director himself to do Indiana Jones, I was like, oh, maybe they'll Loganify it. It'll be kind of interesting to see Indiana Jones in a different phase of life. And then as soon as I paused to think about that, I was like, no, that doesn't fit the franchise at all. Like, you Loganize Wolverine, you Loganize Logan, because he's a character that fits that sort of deconstruction of heroes and all the themes about death. But Indiana Jones, like, facing his own mortality, and like his wife is dead, and he finally found love in his 60s. Or maybe the character was only in his 50s. He was in his 60s, but I think the character was only in his 50s in Crystal Skull. But, finally settles down a little bit, discovers he has a son, and then, his son is distant and his wife is dead, or left him. I just don't think it fits. I don't know what they're going to do. Sala, I don't know. It's possible. I think that's kind of the nature of the character, is you have this guy that's gone on all these adventures, and he's built friendships and allies. And so you can bring back these different people to see where they're at. Are we going to get Short Round? You get Short Round, and it's a character that's kind of funny when you think about it, because it's so wildly offensive. Wait a minute. Indiana Jones has using child labor, and the character's kind of stereotypical. It's some issues. So you can bring that back, and not necessarily try and make it a commentary on the out of date the character is, but you could do something with it that would be interesting. But it's possible that you could. I'd want to see both of them. I'll say that. I want to see both of them. Daniel Skinner, look up 21 Savage, executive producing the soundtrack of Saw. Then you'll see what I mean. I will. 21 Savage. 21 Savage Saw. 21 Savage to executive produce. Because, sorry, I'm reading while we're doing all of this. Just trying to. So, anyway, they have a composer for the film. That's why I wouldn't be worried about it. They have someone it's not like they're looking to have sick rap beats the whole film. Justin Loaded, speaking of Affleck, I think his masterpiece as a director is Gone Baby Gone. If you haven't seen it, highly recommend it. I have seen that one. I've definitely seen that one. And yeah, it's very good. I haven't watched it in a while, and I've only seen it once. So I saw it, I think, not too long after it came out on video is when I saw it. So I guess it's been over 10 years. I think that's true. Yeah, it's probably almost certainly been over 10 years. But out of these shows, which do you think is the best? Okay. Got 4 shows. Mandalorian, Cobra Kai, WandaVision. Falcon and the Winter Soldier at the bottom. Then WandaVision. That's tough. Mandalorian, Cobra Kai. 'Cause part of what makes Cobra Kai so tough is that it's a show that was so surprisingly entertaining. That I think any normal person that heard that they were doing it was like, this is a terrible idea. And I can't tell you how many of my peers, people that are like my age, about 40, that heard about it and were offended to an extent. And I told them, no, check it out. Like I had a friend of mine, I saw it when I first debuted, one of my coworkers from when I had my paint job. And I was like telling him, it's actually pretty good. And he was like, no, they're going to da, da, da. And for 2 years, no. And then he watched it when it dropped on Netflix. And he literally direct messaged me and he's like, hey man, you were right. This show's really good. Like they captured the spirit of the original while being totally different at the same time and really funny. And so I thought Cobra Kai was something special, but The Mandalorian is also in its own way something special. I think overall it's tough, but those two are at the top. So let's say that. Um, I have my frustrations with the episodic nature of Mandalorian. I don't know. It's tough to say. Like objectively, I think that Cobra Kai is probably a little bit objectively better, but on kind of that subjective level, I'm not really sure. Or subjectively, I think Mandalorian being Star Wars, being something I watched with my as a whole family, that's a little bit more special to me than Cobra Kai. So subjectively, Mandalorian, objectively, probably Cobra Kai. Jonas, with the MCU TV shows, how bad do you think COVID has affected each show so far? Do you think the same effect might be seen in Loki's show or not? I don't know. I think we know that WandaVision had to change some things up in the last couple episodes because of COVID and changes in when they were shooting things. There was definitely they had changes, and I think especially with Darcy's character, they like bring her into the hex just so she can have a car ride with Vision, and then she disappears for the last two episodes. Just like literally just shows up to like have a car crash, and then they awkwardly like she just took off. I would guess that probably is COVID related. That she wasn't available because when reshoots, something like that is why she just very awkwardly is only in this one moment in the last two episodes. And then the rumor is that Falcon and the Winter Soldier had a plot line about a virus and a government vaccine, and the government was kind of the bad guys. That you watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier in it, there's definitely something missing. And not just in the sense of like, oh, it needed a bigger threat, which it's missing in that sense. But you're watching, you get to like episode 3 and then like Mama Danya and they're like, what is like she just kind of appears and we don't quite know exactly what's going on. And they're like, she had tuberculosis and she dies almost immediately before we even know who she is or why she matters. And so you're like the whole time you're like, what? I don't understand what the Flag Smashers are doing exactly. I understand why they're doing it, but I don't understand what they're doing exactly. Like about medical supplies and now they want to blow up a building. And so I think the theory, I don't know how much is rumor speculation, but that they had this pandemic plot that they just had to cut out. And so just some of the logic of it is missing. So I think Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I think even more so, was like really hurt by some of that. David Harper Jr., I can only imagine some of the odd messages, comments you get from people, such as the guy you mentioned earlier calling you an idiot. Very admirable you keep cool with people. Well, try to keep cool with people. I try some of it. So like with this guy that you're talking about, he started kind of going off on, like as soon as I think almost my second message to him was like, hey man, are you having a bad day? Like what's going on here? Because it was such a, the conversation literally went, hey man, I really enjoyed Batwoman season 2. Are you going to check it out? I was like, nah, I'm not interested. Which I mean, maybe it read to him as dismissive, but he followed it up with like a paragraph calling me small-minded and like, you only watch popular things, and it just like it was like I triggered him, and he didn't even ask like, oh, you're not interested? Like, have you given the show a shot? Have you tried watching it? He didn't do anything that was like giving me any benefit of the doubt. He was just like triggered. So I normally try and think like, okay, maybe they're trolling, maybe it's a person having a bad day. So I normally follow up with like, if they something seems um someone comes off like they're friendly at first and then go off in a weird direction, just try to see if they're having a bad day, because sometimes they're like, yeah, man, I am having a bad day. Like I had a guy on Twitter that I don't remember what it was, but like he's like, hey man, are you gonna review this? And I'd posted a review the day before on my channel. So I was like, yeah, I actually reviewed it yesterday. Did it not show up? Or it was, a lot of times people are like, hey, are you gonna do this? And so my kind of default response, if they mention something that was on my schedule for the week, is I just respond like, yeah, I do. I actually post my schedule every week. You can check it out. And so I came kind of like just an information, like, and I do it to educate people, like educate, like one by one, trying to let people know I try to post my schedule. And I said this to this guy, and he like was really offended by it. Like, I'm sorry, I don't spend all my time on your social media. I was like, I'm not suggesting you did, but like you asked me a question that I've already answered, so I'm telling you where the answer was. Like, I'm not trying to be dismissive. I'm trying to tell you that this information is out there. And he like just kind of like really snapped on me like I was being rude and snarky, when it like, I don't mean to like sound like over important, but I'm spending time responding to every message you're sending me, and hundreds of people send me messages a day. If you consider my comment section, and he just snapped at me for not like giving him a deeply personalized answer every time. And I was like, man, are you like having a bad day? Like I'm actually, what it was I remember I'm sorry, backstory on all of this. So it was in the middle of the Snowmageddon in February, where I hadn't been at home. I literally hadn't been at home. My house didn't have power. The place I was staying, the power kept cutting out. And so I was tweeting along for 2 hours straight. Like, power just cut out, probably only last 10 minutes. Just kidding. It only lasted 5 minutes. Like, it was literally, that's what I'd been tweeting for like 2 hours. It was just documented. And right after all of that, this guy goes, hey, when are you going to watch this and cover this? And I responded back, like, I'm guessing you haven't been reading my tweets today. So it had a little bit of a snark to it, just a little bit. But it was like, dude, I've been tweeting about not having power, and you're asking me if I'm going to watch something? Like, I don't have power at my house. And I was trying to have fun in a situation that was stressful. And the guy took it as just me being rude to him. So he just like, dude, like, I don't spend all my time just reading your social media, like, and kind of went off on me. It's like, hey man, like, I don't know if you're having a bad day. I've been tweeting about the fact that, like, I'm not at home. My house might have serious damage. I don't have power. That's what I've been tweeting about. So I said that because I don't even know if you knew that. Like, if you knew that and you asked me this question, I was probably going to push back on you a little bit and like, why are you asking me to watch a movie while I'm trying to stay warm in the middle of a blizzard in Texas? But the guy responded back like, oh, yeah, actually, I have been having a pretty rough time right now. And I just read I just got on Twitter and I hadn't read your previous stuff, and I just took it really wrong. So I try and find it's a little bit tough because you have all these interactions where you don't know what information people have. You don't know the context where people are coming from when they say things. And so I'll be thinking to myself, I just shared my schedule. I just tweeted about my home condition, like 100 tweets about it. And then but that person that doesn't sitting there watching my social media. So there's a lot of things like that can be frustrating. Like, people ask me direct message me the same question over and over and over again. And it's cool that people are interested, but from my perspective, it's like, I literally answer the same question. Like, have you seen Invincible? Have you seen Invincible? Have you seen Invincible? No, I haven't. I've been watching Best Picture nominees and video game movies. Maybe I'll check it out when I have time. And I've like typed that same exact answer 10 times every day for a month straight. Um, Jonas, if you could only watch 3 movies this year, which one would you watch? Fun fact: saw an Entertainment Weekly. I Fun fact: saw an Entertainment Weekly interview with Simon Liu. The reporter pronounced it as Shang Chi with an O. Um, yeah, I read that. It was like we're talking about the Saw movies. It was like Saw as in Saw movies, and Entertainment Weekly. I was like, what are you saying? I was like, oh, Saw as in the word Saw. If you guys don't watch Ryan George, he did a video on his real channel, not Pitch Meetings, on naming tools. And we probably watched it 10 times or 20 times in my house. And he has a whole bit about naming a saw. And you saw a saw. And it's amazing. it's amazing. If I was going to watch 3 movies this year, which ones would you watch? I don't know. I don't know if I end. I posted my most anticipated movies list. Several of those have come out. Most of them have not. That my answer would be in there, but off the top of my head, after talking, I guess we're at an hour and 20 minutes. Woo! I just don't know. I just don't know offhand. I, yeah, I can't recall the movies and weigh them enough offhand. Daniel, since Loki was also shut down due to COVID, I can only imagine that a TV show will face the same problems as the other 2. It's tough to know because some of it deals with whether like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, part of the interruption was probably plot related. Seems like with WandaVision, they couldn't get people back. And I think with each one of these, there's more time. So with Loki, there's a little bit more time to get people back together. So I think with each new release, the effects could be reduced. Movie King, are you going to put your 20 video game movie ranking early on Patreon? I don't know. Honestly, I don't plan any of those out. Anytime that they're early releases, those are almost never really planned out like that. It's a matter of if I get ahead, when I film things, and I just don't always know when that's going to happen. I don't know how my schedule's going to play out and everything. So I don't know. I really don't know. I don't even know what day the video is going to come out. There's a lot of stuff that I want to. So, like right now, now I'm crashing. I said at the beginning I might start crashing. I'm definitely crashing right now. I'm just mumbling to myself, saying, So I got Mortal Kombat movie review. It's shot. Literally shot it. That's why I'm dressed up. But I didn't even. I left this chair just to grab a drink that I haven't even opened yet. But other than that, I went straight from shooting that to this live stream. Got Mortal Kombat movies ranked. Falcon and the Winter Soldier characters. I've got The Mitchells versus the Machines. I've already watched it. Don't know when I'm going to shoot my review. Don't know when I'm going to post my review. Without Remorse, the new John Clark movie, Michael B. Jordan. It's kind of related to Jack Ryan. I got my screener link for that. Pretty excited about that one. I want to watch Stowaway with Anna Kendrick. Might review that. That would be Sean Chandler Plus, my second channel. And then also top 20 video game movies ranked. This is a lot of stuff. And Invincible, I want to watch Invincible and probably do some stuff on that. This is a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff going on right now. So I don't know. I still have to do my Parasite and Minari reviews. That's a sponsored video where like I'm waiting for a box to come in from the Korean tourism organization, do like this unboxing of that stuff, and then do my movie reviews. It's just a lot of things going on. Jen is gonna where Loki will have to face last minute rewrites and therefore cut off important stuff to replace it with less interesting stuff. Is that confirmed? Is that a thing that is that speculating that the same thing happened? Because I just don't know that. They just have more time. Like Falcon and the Winter Soldier was supposed to come out last August. I think it was delayed like 6 months. And so it's a kind of a different equation because things got shut down in the 6 months leading up to it, and they had to change up their game and maybe do some rewrites. Loki, what? Like Loki was still a year out when everything shut down. So I don't think it would be affected as much. One last thing, Sean, before I go, what are your thoughts on Lady Demescu character coming to the new Resident Evil Village game? None whatsoever. I've never played a Resident Evil game. I've tried them and I didn't like it. I haven't played a recent one. I need to see if like maybe the modern aesthetics work better for me. But the scene by scene nature of the old games, I just didn't like it. I didn't like the way they played back in the day, so I never really got into them. So even though I've the back in the day, I watched the first two Resident Evil movies quite a bit, but um, uh, uh, but the games I've never gotten into. She is a 9'6" vampire lady with Freddy Krueger hand that showed up last month, and the internet has some thirsty words to say when it comes to the way she is designed. Thankfully, not me. Um, yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about. I have no idea. Jay Studdert for our final question of the day. Thoughts on Haunting of Hill House? I've only seen the first episode. I haven't seen anything else. I watched the sequel series, but I haven't watched the first one. So, and by all accounts, I've heard that it's better than the sequel. So, just haven't seen it. There you have it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for your support. Should be back next week, I believe. Should be back next week. Bye bye.